Good to see you. I'm glad that we were able to make this happen. I mean, you and I just spoke initially last week and talked on the
Yes,
phone
we
for a
did.
little bit, and I appreciate you making yourself available to talk to me.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Michael. It's love to talk about what's going on in the consumer credit market and happy to answer any questions you might have.
It's. I have to ask you. We'll get into all that, but I have to ask, like, in the space that you're in. Melody Wright is a friend of mine. She's been on here multiple times. I've had Jack Gamble on. I'm kind of all over the place in my subjects that I cover in doing this show. But I don't think people really understand that, like, when you're in these spaces, the mental drain, and I'm not complaining by any stretch, but the mental drain that it can that it takes on you, but not, and also you never stop looking at this stuff.
It's you know, don't say that you don't want to complain. It's okay to complain because the amount of information that's coming at us, it's unbelievable. And our role is to filter the information and share it with the newsletter readers or clients or institutional fund managers, share it with them in a digestible, but most importantly, an actionable pace. So that is the role that we are playing in our research work that we are doing for our institutional clients are thorough and deep dive. We speak to installers, we speak to dealerships, we speak with people who used to work for banks. We used to speak with people who repo the cars from the consumers. This is a non-stop process and it's exhausting. It is your mind is always in the work mode. It is never in the personal mode. So I completely understand what you're saying.
This episode is brought to you by McIlvaney Financial Group. Their advisors bring a depth of knowledge and experience that allow them to serve their clientele with care, ensuring their financial needs are met now and in the future. Personally, I'm not saying cash is worthless, but you can see what's happening. It's worth less every year. Gold is the opposite. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to www.mcilvaney.com /coffee and a mic. I don't even know what that is anymore. And I mean, because you're looking at this stuff all the time. Like I'm getting ready to go on a trip this summer. I'm going to be gone for a couple of months. But the reality of it is, because I do this full time, it's not a vacation. I mean, yeah, there'll be a little bit of fun, but I have to take my gear with me. I have to figure out where I'm going to record. You have to constantly watch stuff, and
Yes.
everything is revolves around my schedule of, like, all right, like, say I'm talking to you and I'm on the road and I got
Yes.
to edit it, get it uploaded before I leave. If I'm driving 3 or 4 hours to go somewhere, and then it's just, so it's always, it never leaves you. And I don't.
No.
Can you
No.
can you
We
take a week
stopped.
off?
What's that?
Can you take a week off and, like, go
No.
somewhere?
We went for a so-called vacation to Vermont. I used to do rock climbing and rafting. We decided to go to Vermont or Bar Harbor, Maine for a week. I work. I was catching up with work so much, and we decided to come back home after 3 days. I'm not proud to share this information. I would love to take a break off, but everything changes. Everything changes, and the way things are. I've been reviewing Fitch's of firms' asset-backed securities, and the defaults and delinquencies that started to spike in the B and PL area is unbelievable. That used to be the lowest default delinquency risk over the past 2 years. What happened since excuse me, since student loans started to be reported to the credit rating agencies, student loan default resumption started to happen last week or a few weeks ago. BNPL never used to report consumer credit default or delinquencies to credit rating agencies. Effective April 2025, they began to report it to, I believe, Experian. and effective May 2025, um, a firm started to report it, the consumer credit defaults, delinquencies, and usage to uh, TransUnion. And they mentioned that they will continue to do so over the next a few months for the other credit rating agencies. And I have been researching this all morning and all night yesterday and trying to write a comprehensive um, research on to the Substack readers with on how it impacts the consumer, how it impacts the credit market, how it's going to impact the credit availability. I've been saying this for a past 6 months, and the problem is consumers think that they have credit. One of our sources that we spoke with yesterday or a few days ago mentioned that banks are not doing anything because everybody knows there is a problem. Everybody knows the consumer credit is a problem. Everybody knows that the defaults are increasing, but no one wants to be the first one to say there is a problem. According to our source, if you were a bank A and you see what's going on and you call the press and tell them that consumers are having problem, we see increase in defaults and delinquencies, we are increasing the repos, and you can expect, the shareholders can expect the increase in charge-offs and provision for credit losses. Immediately, Michael, you will see cascading effect. Then researchers will start questioning, okay, if bank A is doing it, bank B is in the worst condition, what are they going to do now? So that's why nobody is talking about it. Extend and pretend, you keep kicking the can down the road, and that is exactly what's going on.
I didn't think that just because I've been hearing this for so long, but they actually went ahead and stopped the forbearance on the student loans. Did you think
They
they were?
did.
Did you think that they were going to extend it again, extend and pretend, or did you think this time it was real?
The current administration seems rightfully so. I am apolitical. So the current administration currently wants to know, hey, you have to pay back your student loan. Taxpayers are no longer going to, bear the responsibility. And if you're not going to pay back your student loans, your wages will be garnished. Your social security will be garnished. And I think that personally, that's the right thing to do. However, whether the intent of them doing it, whether it's a right for right reason, that I don't know. But doing the forbearance from a long-term perspective is a bad move from the get-go.
The whole student loan conversation is very interesting to me because I have friends that have kids in college, and they tell me what I don't have any kids, so um, I always have to throw the disclaimer. I don't have any kids, so I don't know what it's like to be a parent, and my opinions don't matter in that regard because I don't have the experience of it. But I talk to them. Their kids are in college and what the costs are associated with it today versus when I went to school. And I mean, I went to Kent State University, and I think now it's 30 grand a year to go to get an undergrad degree. Now, I think that includes housing. So, with a school like that, you might live on campus for up to 2 years and then you'll, get an apartment. But even
Yeah,
still, for these degrees that, in my opinion, I mean, I just don't know what they're going to do for you when you get out. But
yeah,
my point of this is, they want to just get you on the debt train as fast as they can and as young as they can.
yeah.
And, you start off, you're just buried.
Interesting you say that because there are private schools where they have an option to take out the private student loans, and it begins from kindergarten. Um, from my standard point of view, if you don't have cash to pay for private school, then don't go to private school. And I also the problem is I spoke to a few customers, not customers, the student loan borrowers. And what's interesting is there is this guy graduated from a school, uh, not the top tier, but a school nevertheless, for a communications major. He is in debt for nearly $250,000. He can't find a job. You can't find a job if you have a bachelor's degree in communications major. It is it's a trap, and you're absolutely right. It's complete trap. Someone asked my suggestion. He graduated high school and he said, my score is not good enough for top tier colleges. My score is not good enough for an engineering admission. My score is not good enough for getting into medical school. What do you recommend? To be blunt, if you really don't have the opportunity or the finance to go in that area, then go to trade school. I would be gladly sending my now 7-year old to a trade school. There is nothing wrong or there is no shame in going to a trade school. The money you earn is a lot more than what you get for your bachelor's degree in communications major.
Well, and also with that too, and I don't know like tech school what the costs are with it and if loans are available for it, but even with these some of these degrees, masters, medical that you need, uh, and this is just my take on it. I mean, they extend it to just keep you the carousel. Where I mean, when I was in college, they had changed the format, the criteria for a CPA, where you didn't need a master's. And then it went from just having a bachelor's to you had to have 150 hours in order to take your CPA. Like, is that really necessary? Because you're going to get your CPA once you get it, whatever wherever you start. Usually, it's one of the big four. They're going to train you anyway.
The Big Four is a whole other clown show. I have been told that the people or the accountants in the Big Four, because I did ask a few of the people that I do know, saying that, hey, XYZ company is full of crap. There are a lot of off balance sheet transactions that they are not sharing in, or there is so much bad debt, they're not writing it off. Why the accountants are not forcing them to write off? And I was told that people in the Big Four, they just sit there and stare at it and they have no clue. So what's the point of going to Big Four when you really A, don't understand, or B, can't advise a corporation to write off? So there is a problem somewhere from the whole, from your schooling to all the way to employment.
And then they put you like this example you said with a communications degree. They bury you in debt, and then so now you hope to find something which is probably not going to be anywhere comparable to what you're going to need just to pay those loans. Plus, you need to live, car, so on and so forth. And then you're paying into a system that you're probably not going to collect from a social security standpoint. So, this is where we are where I mean we are the system is collapsing.
Yes. And I called it as a death trap. And the way I call it as death trap is I was typing something and instead of death trap, I accidentally typed it as death trap. And I'm like, it makes sense. They start early on and they trap you in a debt to buy things that you don't need. I buy my clothes from consignment. There is nothing wrong with it. It's environmentally friendly. It costs less. And
You're a very sharp dresser, Locks, by the way, if I may say.
what's that?
I said you're a very sharp dresser, by the way.
Thank you. I mean, I have no shame because today Burberry released that they're going to lay off people. You have jackets from Burberry for like $2,000. Why do you need the jacket? And Gucci is collaborating with a firm. Why would Gucci have to collaborate with a firm? Why are they targeting a group of consumers and convincing them that they kind of have to wear a jacket or have a purse that is $5,000 and you can pay it in 5 installments? Why? So, like you said, the system is imploding, and it is critical that the system needs to correct itself because everywhere you see it's debt. We are running on unlimited debt with zero accountability.
Do you think that the system can correct itself, Locks, in the state of things?
Every country goes through a multiple phase. I have been reading the book called The Fourth Turning on how the United States, if you compare with other nations in the world, it's a baby. It has like 400 years. There are other countries or China, India, Europe, they have history more than 400 years. There is nothing wrong with it. What is concerning is that we are only 400 years old and we are going to go through the process. We are going to go through this process of completely collapsing in terms of credit. We are going to go through the process of how credit availability is not going to be there for everybody. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, but the way things are going, BNPL is throttling the credit. Consumers do not have money for their groceries. I believe according to the latest payment survey, 25% of consumers who use buy now, pay later are using it to buy groceries. That used to be 14% a few years ago.
I had Amanda Goodall on here a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the buy now, pay later, and I was not familiar with it, and it is so bad to where people use Uber Eats and Grubhub for buy now, pay later.
Yes. It is sad. I mean, according to the latest statistics, 61% of buy now, pay later users make at least $100,000 a year in salary. Six figure used to be something like 10 years ago. So people who are making more than 100 grand or 61% of the population who are using BNPL. They're using it for food and clothes.
And people don't realize, and I would have never guessed this either, when you go that route, you're getting dings on your credit.
They started it for the past few months. I could not find the data. I think it's work in progress in terms of gathering the data that shows you how much credit will be dinged. But we do know that the student loan default resumption coming out of forbearance and BNPL started to report the consumer credit usage to the credit agencies. They pretty much started around the same time frame, March, April, May. And that's a problem because student loan delinquencies take roughly 250 points hit in your credit score. And then you have consumers, the second that happens, the information is visible to all the banks. Say you have credit cards from 5 or 6 banks and you defaulted on your student loan. It's reported to the credit score. So you have, say, roughly 750 points on your credit score, and all of a sudden, student loan started the process and the default reported to the credit score. You went from 750 to 550. And then as soon as that happens, a warning will be sent to all the credit cards, and they will, if you have $20,000 credit limit on your Discover, they will throttle it to 10,000. If you have credit on 15,000 on another credit card, they will throttle it probably to 5,000. So this is how the credit will get completely squeezed out of the consumers, especially the 30% of the subprime consumers. So as I mentioned in the other podcast with Jack, it overlaps. So you have, could not remember on top of my brain, but you have roughly 10 or 11% of the population who have zero credit. So, and if you take them out, so you have 89%. So 89%, 30% of them roughly are subprime. So this subprime consumers are the ones who use buy now, pay later. They also are the one who maxes out the credit cards. They also are the ones who choose to go to bankruptcy uh, direction, so they don't have to deal with all of this. And we haven't even looked at it. I checked it out a few weeks ago and published on our Substack how the bankruptcies for consumer bankruptcies, I mean personal consumer bankruptcies, as well as corporate bankruptcies, have been consistently increasing since January 2025.
Do you think the 30% subprime, so 10%, so is the 10% roughly people have just exited out of the system, they don't participate, so they don't have credit?
They are, they don't belong in the system. It's like they are invisible. I'll tell you an
They're
example.
the
When
smart
I
they're the
went
smart
to,
one they're the smart ones, Locks, not to interrupt you, but
that's true. I went to I went to a local university for my master's, and I had a law professor. He is extremely, God rest his soul, extremely smart. And every time he will ask me, "Hey, Lux, can you help me to buy the used books from Amazon?" Like, perfectly fine. Said, "I don't have the credit, so can you just buy it? I'll pay you cash." I was like, "Professor, what do you mean you don't have credit?" He goes, "I don't see a need for getting trapped in the illusion of credit." He bought the entire house with cash back in 1950s, all cold cash, and whatever he wants to spend, if he has $100, he spends within the $100. So we have 10% of the population who refuses or are not eligible to have credit. So they are completely off the map.
do you see that number increasing over time?
Oh,
And
no,
I was going to say, and the reason I'm asking you this is, you know, it appears to me like what we talked about earlier, how younger people, they get themselves buried in these debt and, see that they're in such a hole that it's almost impossible to claw their way out of, that they just start exiting from the system.
it's interesting. And there is a reason that's not possible because I can't speak to it. Maybe people are slowly getting out of the system. But when I say the 11% of the population are credit invisible, I mean from the day one they hit their puberty. These days parents give their kids a debit or credit card to build their credit, so on and so forth. But this 11% population had no access to credit, didn't have any intent to get into the system. They were never in the system. That's how I read the data. I might be wrong, but that's how I read the data.
Is it mostly older then that makes up of this 10%? People in their
Yes.
70s, 80s, the
They are
boomers.
older generations. I'm very, to be completely candid, very confused about the Gen Z, millennial, and all the crap. They are the older generations. I will leave it at that.
Yeah, I call it the boomers are the older ones because they've been attacking me a lot lately because I've been criticizing them. But not all of
Oh,
them.
that
Not all of them. I don't criticize. I don't. I don't. It's not a one size fits all. But
people criticize you these days for everything. They get offended for everything. It's exhausting.
do you think then the percentage, the 30% subprime category, is that consist of, and I'm just talking general here, but does that consist of people that are just living beyond their means? The I want to live rich but not get rich.
Living beyond the means. It's a very loaded statement, and I will tell you why. The basic standard of living has deteriorated so much. So people, yes, some of them are probably living beyond their means, but most of them are trying to survive on a day-to-day basis. This boils down to the standard of living has deteriorated so much that between the mortgage, between your car payments, between, let's just say, for the argument's sake, Michael, there is no credit card. So X doesn't have any credit card debt, but X has 3 kids, and you have mortgage to pay, health insurance, car, auto insurance, child care, clothes and basic needs and amenities for the kids and the parents. People can't afford this. So people necessarily are not living beyond the means, and I cannot, in good conscience, just label a whole bunch of people that I don't know saying that, hey, you're living beyond your means. Because from my point of view, I don't think that's right. People can't afford the basic needs, and that's a standard of living problem. So that is that's very sad. You have health, State Farm and other company or insurance company are planning to increase the insurance rates again. Health insurance costs are going through the roof. People can't afford it. I have somebody telling me I go to 3 different stores to shop because there's a Stop and Shop nearby.
They still have
Very
Stop and
expensive.
Shop locks. They stop. They still have. I used to go to Stop and Shop when I was a kid. They still have those.
Yes,
Oh,
but these days the Stop and Shop is like so fancy. I stopped going there. It's so expensive. I'm not paying $3 for avocado or like $5 for strawberries. So we go to the local one here. Trader Joe's is expensive. They have jacked up the prices, and everyone is saying, "Oh, the trade deal is reached. We have ships coming in. Everything is normal." That's not the case. The problem is the second the tariff start names started to throw around, doesn't matter whether it's actually implemented or turned off. The wholesalers are already started to pass the cost to the consumers. Costco is expensive. They increase their membership fee, and my husband got, I think, pork chops or something. It's cheaper in Costco. And he said, what a bad idea, because I believe they put something called fish oil or something to reduce the cost in some way so they can sell it cheaper. And I don't eat meat, but I was told that that's a disgusting tasting pork chop. So the quality of food has gone down. The price have gone up. We stopped going out to eat because there is a, there is a breakfast place nearby. I used to take my son waffles with banana and whipped cream. You get it for $8, right? But now it's $20 because they charge $3 for whipped cream, $3 for bananas. So I don't think people are living beyond the means. People can only cut so much of what they are consuming. You got to feed the kids. You need a roof over the head. You need insurance. They can't afford it.
Yeah, I don't know how half these restaurants are surviving. I mean, and I see new ones opening, and I'm like, I look at them and I'm like, you are out of your mind. Like I looked at a menu, and I'm with you. I never go out to eat anymore. A restaurant there, it was like 4 strips of bacon. It was $4. I'm like, I
Yeah.
can go get a half pound at the store for
Yes.
$4 or $5.
Yes.
Um, what I want to ask you in regards, coming back to the student loans for a second, these universities, and I'm not talking about like maybe the Ivy League or I lived in Penn State a long time ago, and they have this huge alumni with big endowments. Those schools, I'm guessing, will be okay, but some of these state-run institutions that don't have these large alumni, they need those student loans to be continue to be, you know, issued to these kids so they can keep those buildings full. So, do you see a break point, some type of the system breaking to where the money's just not going to be available?
A small correction system is broken,
I realized
especially
that right after I said that to you.
system is broken because 15 years ago, a guy I worked with exposed a for-profit education fraud. University of Phoenix, it's still around. Grand Canyon, still around. The problem with colleges doesn't matter which college it is. It gives an illusion to people who are going to colleges that they are smarter because they went to XYZ college. The problem with colleges is that whatever they are offering in terms of education is not practical. It's you go to college, you learn a few things that you can apply in the real world. Fine, go take $100,000 in student loan. Because if you learn something that has direct application to the real world, it makes sense. But you go to college, passionate about art, wonderful, but you're not going to be a Picasso, right? It's how it's all posturing. It's like how you present yourself. Oh, I went to college. I went to this college. But if you don't get a job, then you still have to pay the student loan. The college is not going to do anything. I know some colleges pretty much said if you're not from the top 3 tier colleges, you're not going to get a job with this degree. So people, the counselors, the so-called counselors who are in the colleges, if they're actually doing their job, they will tell the students, this is not practical. So I don't know where to start because the colleges are not being upfront and transparent. The students are getting sucked into this illusion of going to college and you get a great job. But here's the problem. If you were graduating college next month, you don't have a job next month, you're already in a pool of people who are older because every month that you pass without a job, another graduate is going to graduate and the companies look for the fresh graduate. So the longer that you are without a job right out of college, the older the companies will, recruitment agencies will put you into a basket of, okay, this guy is graduated 3 years ago, don't have a job in what he's looking for. Then that XYZ student will go and get a master's degree with another student loan, hoping that, oh, maybe when I get a master's degree, I'll have a job. But here's the thing, the longer you are trying to get a job, new graduates will start to come in, and the companies prefer newer graduates than the older graduates. So student loan is a trap unless you are going to a college where you are learning something with real world practical application, don't take out student loan.
But do you think that they'll still make those available for people, and maybe just they'll just increase the interest rates because an 18-year-old might not
Yeah,
necessarily be paying attention to it because they have to keep those buildings full with people.
yeah. It's a business. It does not, it does, from my point of view, in doing this and getting mentored by a guy who exposes for profit fraud, it's a business. They don't care whether you get a job or not. It is a business. And that is what it is. And that's the sad part of the entire thing. No one cares about the student. No one cares that the student has to get a job after he graduates. Is the education that we are providing in this university, will it help the students who are paying us get a job? Most universities do not think that. With this day and age, all you need is an internet and a computer, and there are a lot of free courses that you can teach yourself. Why would you pay hundreds and thousands of dollars to go get a degree?
Yeah, well, the other thing too, it's like everything around you, it's a grift today. Everything. You get nickel dimed for everything. You pay $3 for whipped cream at a restaurant, and I'm sure there's some other ancillary charges that were mixed into that too. Um, and that to me is the ultimate sign of a decaying society, or a society that is collapsing, because there's no moral. Not only is there no moral compass anymore, but individuals that are just trying to survive, they get grifted everywhere they go.
People are angry. I People are angry and rightfully so. You can't afford 1950s, you have a family and you have three kids, you have a house, no debt, live happily. The more advanced we get, it appears that there is a group of people we are just forgetting, and they are angry, Michael. They can't afford basic needs and they are pissed. So everything that you're seeing or reading in the news, and people are not stupid. People get angry, and people are going to get angrier as we go into 2026 because it's going to worse. It's going to get worse. And that is depressing. That is very depressing.
I have to share this with you. I don't know if you saw it. Amanda put this up yesterday, and I saw it this morning. I was like, "Oh, this is perfect that I'm talking to you today." She was talking about Microsoft. Did you read this post by her on X?
What's that?
Amanda Goodall. She wrote a post about
Yes,
Microsoft.
yes. I saw the Microsoft is laying off people.
It's
Yes.
got a million. It's got a million views. This post. She laid off 6,000. This I thought was incredible in regards to big tech and laying people off. Microsoft laid off. I'm going to read this for people that haven't seen it yet. Uh, Microsoft laid off 6,000 people, but they dropped a pretty brutal new policy overhaul. 2-year rehire ban for anyone pushed out over performance. A new good attrition metric. Yes, they track if they're happy, you're gone. Plus, you have 5 days to choose: 16-week severance or a performance plan with no severance if you fail. Honestly, this mirrors Amazon's unregretted attrition model and is kicking off a new era of ruthless performance management in big tech. Welcome to 2025.
Well, tech sector is known for this, and this is not new. I have known people who used to work at Priceline, which is now bookings.com. I have known people who worked at IBM. I have known people who worked at Microsoft. These people lay off people and they do not care. And the performance expectations they set up is so high. And if you don't meet the expectations, you're gone.
But these types of things, you wonder, it's another reminder of why people don't want to participate in the system anymore.
Yes. People are frustrated. People are frustrated that there is virtue signaling everywhere. There is companies coming out and say, we care for you. And Boeing is a classic example. Boeing used to have a management. I don't know if it's everybody is domestic, but Boeing's management used, not the current management, please don't mistake it for the current management. Boeing used to have a good management that took care of its employees, each and every one of them, their families. It's like the good old company. That management was gone. And ever since the new management took over, it's profit before people. You have people die because you don't have the proper manufacturing done. And the stock price is still up. No one was held accountable. And we used to follow an ultra low cost carrier airline 8 years ago, and I am not going to say the name of it. We have our sources who used to be mechanics for the airline tell us, oh, the CEO came in and yelled why we did the emergency landing. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, I don't care if engine falls out of the sky. Emergency landing costs me money. Unless people fall out of the sky and die, don't bother me. Keep flying. He is still the CEO of the company.
And this is a big airline, an airline people would know. You don't want to do a coffee and a mic exclusive, Locks, and reveal the airline?
What's that?
I said you don't want to do a coffee and a mic exclusive and reveal who the airline is?
Sure, if you want to. I have to do the raise money to pay for my attorney because what if they sue me? But yes, you have the CEO coming in and say profit before people. Corporations no longer take care of their employees. And you have this Microsofts of the world come out and say, we take care of the employee. Nope. As long as you're adding to their bottom line, you're an employee. No loyalty whatsoever.
Well, recently they had, and I want to talk about the auto loans too, but recently Square laid off, I don't know, 800 to 1,000 people. I talked to somebody that was a part of that. They didn't even get, they got an email, and that was it.
They get text messages and phone call. A long time ago, when I was working for a firm, right before COVID happened, so I got hired before Unicus, and right before COVID happened, April, I was hired in January, and right before COVID happened, I got a call saying that, yeah, we are laying you off. People, corporations don't care. Universities do not care whether their students are marketable in the society because they are taking hundreds and thousands of dollars loan. Credit card companies does not care. BNPL. There was a consumer who was chatting in a forum with me. He already has $11,500 or something of credit limit in a firm. A firm sent him an email saying that they're boosting his credit limit to 15,000. Why would you attract consumers by offering them more money to spend?
And you wonder why people, why people feel so demoralized from all
People
this.
are angry.
What? Explain to me the whole zombie car and the auto loan. That's a whole nother thing. I mean, I had John Comiskey on talking about the FHA stuff.
Yeah, he emailed me yesterday. Yes. It, we spoke with another service yesterday, and I've been talking about a few banks in Jack's podcast. And the latest scoop is this. So the auto loan the repos are increasing for new cars. You can't find this data anywhere because this data is not easily accessible. Another reason is this data can be accessed, but it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this data, at the end of the day, you can't access the repo data. And the repo data published by Cox Automotive and Mannheim, they might be great, but we don't rely on their data. It's very polished. You have a polished data that you show to the public, and there is an actual data. The deviation from the polished data and the actual data is roughly 50%. So, according to the latest source, that the repos are skyrocketing, and people are handing over their car keys with less than 30,000 miles in their car, saying that I can't make payments. Of course, the banks go, well, how much can you make it? So I can adjust the term loans based on that. And they're like, I don't want to deal with it. So now the student, what we deduce from this is the student loan is pressuring the consumers. So now they have to do I pay my mortgage? Do I pay my car loan? Do I pay my credit card? Or there's no option whether I should pay my student loan or not because it's going to get garnished. What are they going to do?
So, and I heard you give the example of Jack's. Let's say they buy a car. I mean, even 30,000 today is low, right? And that's just a regular car.
30,000 for new car?
Well, I know you use the example of 30,000 for a new car. I know. I said that seems low.
No. 30,000 miles. They're repoing the car with new car with 30,000 miles in them.
Okay, so let's say they buy the car initially for maybe you said 30, but let's say it's 30,000, just to use a round number. But even that, I mean, that's so low today for a car, for a decent car. I don't even know what 30,000 can get you, if it even can.
Not much.
That's a whole nother guy. We could spend 3 hours talking about that. Another grift. You clear out your whole day, Lox. We gotta figure out the world this afternoon, talking about all this stuff. But so they buy the car for 30,000 initially. After 30,000 miles, which could be a year and a half into this loan, and the loan term could be anywhere from 5-7 years. How far out are they going?
They have 94 months term loans.
94 months.
They have 60, 72, 94 months term loans for a car.
So that's 7+ years. So they're turning them back in at 30,000 miles. The bank's on a car lot. So what are they doing with these cars?
Oh, we were told that the banks are buying properties to park the cars or park the cars wherever they can, the cars that they repoed. So when you repo it, whatever they owe you the money, you have to sell the car in the auction to get the money and put it against their loan. So when they go to the auction, that's a whole different story. They can't sell it in a profit. They can't make decent money off it. They have to sell it at a loss. And that pricing puts further pressure into the new car market as well as the used car market.
Why can't they sell it at a profit?
Because there are tons of cars available, Michael. Nobody wants to whoever buys it at auction wants to buy it for a cheaper price.
So they're taking the loss on these cars, and so the banks are just getting killed from all this.
Yes.
Nobody's talking about any of this. Is stuff you're just not hearing out there.
You know what's sad is when we are sitting on the conference call for these companies, for these banks, no analyst is asking the banks this question. No one is talking about floor plans. No one is talking about the repos. So no analyst is asking all these questions to the banks during the earnings call, they're just kicking the can down the road. And their accountant is not forcing them to write it off. They are in their books, but they're not writing it off.
So the cars, they end up at a lot. They eventually get sold at auction at a loss. And then what? They go back into the reseller market and a used lot somewhere?
Yeah. And we also heard that when you are selling at auction houses, usually you have to fix the car before you sell it. They're not fixing the car anymore because it costs extra money. And that's why consumers who buy it from Carvana or wherever it is, if you buy a car or a used car immediately, within a month or so, you have a problem with the transmission and you have to spend a lot of money fixing it. And then people are saying, oh, I don't want this car anymore because I don't have the money to fix the car. But they have to still keep on paying the car loan.
How long has this been going on for?
2021. You know how the 2020, you have the stimulus package coming up, money coming up. So the consumers paid all the debt down, boosted their credit scores. Then the banks came out and said, oh, your credit score is pretty good. So you have 5,000 line of credit. So let me give you an additional 10,000. Oh, do you want a car? Okay, fine. So you have people buying nice cars. So all the OEMs started manufacturing cars a lot so they can push it to the consumers. And then at that point, you have an increase in supply and there is a point of saturation in demand. And OEMs are continued to manufacturing cars. There is a point in time where dealerships said, don't send me any more cars because I have a lot of cars in my lot. And they call it a lot rot, where the car's you have to drive the car, keep the car in shape, and it's a lot of work, and you have to pay floor plan to the banks from whom you borrow the money, the dealerships. So the dealership said to the OEMs that don't send me any more cars. This was in 2023, 2024, 2023 on. And the OEM started to blackmail, saying that if you don't take my 2024 model or 2025 model, then I'm not going to give you dealer discounts to your dealerships. So shoving the dealerships with cars that they can't sell. So it's a cascading effect. It's been going on since 2021.
Would you say then if you have cash right now, it's a buyer's market in the auto world?
Yes and no, because of the tariffs, some dealerships started to jack up the prices. So if you understand the market, if anybody understands the market very well, they know dealerships are in vulnerable positions. So you can go there and tell them, hey, I know very much what kind of cars you have, and you have to get rid of the car. Might as well give the car to me in the prices that I ask. So I'm sure you can haggle, but
for as long as you've been, doing your research and finding, starting Unicus research, did you ever think we'd be at the point where we're at now with all this?
yes, and it's going to get worse. We are our economy is in such a bad shape. No one wants to accept it because you need to make a decision. The banks don't want that to happen. So they keep offering credits to consumers who can't pay them. The prices are not coming down. Inflation is not down. You have the entire channel. For instance, if you take a restaurant, you have an entire channel. You have the suppliers that the restaurants buy them from, and the suppliers are jacking up the price. A few months ago, I have to leave in a few minutes if that's okay. We can do this another time if you want.
I'd have you
But
on
a
all
few
the time,
months
Locks. I'd have you on all the time to talk. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm happy to share any data that I can find. This helps the customers or whoever is listening to your Substack or your audience. I wanted this to reach to as many people as possible because consumers learn what the media is saying, and what we are seeing is scary. You have a supply chain of distributors and to the restaurants, they are jacking up the price. So when this kind of chaos is happening, someone is always gouging the other person.
If I know you got to go, but one last question. So you say that it's going to get a lot worse. What is your vision and definition of worse?
We are seeing the prices are going to go up. Consumers' credit is going to get cut from where it is right now. And in terms of chaos and unemployment, we expect unemployment to catch up. There is usually a lag between 3 to 6 months. So if you see a data, say Microsoft laid off 1,000 people, right? You won't see that data in the market right away. It takes at least like 3 months. And the unemployed not necessarily file for unemployment. The unemployment agency is the agency that deals with the unemployment and puts people in the unemployment, and that reflects in the data. They are very, very short staffed. So one of my friend who applied for unemployment more than 6 months ago, and she hasn't heard back. So whatever everybody is saying that's happening in the market is not reflected 100% in reality. So that's why you see a group of people, group of consumers screaming that they can't afford anything. And you see the mainstream media saying inflation is coming down. And you see a huge gap between what's really happening and what the media is saying. Because it's not necessarily that media is lying. Yes and no, that's a whole new conversation. But the fact is, whatever is happening it takes time to get to reflect in the data that people are seeing in the news.
Where can people find you?
We started posting, writing research. We provide detailed research to our clients, to our institutions, but we started recently writing all these things from the macro perspective and how it impacts consumers in our newsletter. They can go to contrarianunicus.substack.com. You can share the link if they're interested. That's where we share all the information, which includes what's happening in the credit market. Defaults and delinquencies are going up. What's happening in the auto loan market? What's happening with the consumer credit, which is BNPL? We cover all angles as much as we can, so the consumer can access the facts that is currently happening.
And then your X handle?
X handle is Unicus Research, and I forgot my X handles. At Unicus Research.
And I'll put those up. I'll put those all up in the show notes when I post this. Lux, thanks for doing this. Do you think at some point? I mean, the banks to me, they're like empty. Like I don't know how all these banks are surviving.
They continue to pay dividend. And that's what that's partly the reason the stocks are still holding up. And no one wants to, they all talk to each other. No one wants to be
Not the
the first
stocks,
one to
Lux, the banks. How the banks have been able to stay alive.
they are bundling all this and shoving it into the credit market.
Thank you for doing this. I look forward to our next conversation, continuing to follow your work, and yeah, a lot to digest today. But we are where we are. It is what it is.
It is what it is, and consumers need to focus more on saving and try to cut back on things that they don't need as of this moment.
Well, and you do what you have to do, right? And I think one
Yes.
of the things in our society is, in my opinion, we've lost what's truly important, and maybe this will help people realize that.
Yeah, go back to it's important to for us to go back to the roots. Back in the days, it's a very communal living. You don't have something, you go to your neighbors. It's that community is fractured. So we have to go back to our roots. I think that's where we are going.
Thank you so much. Mic drop.
Of course.